Okay, welcome to the That's Good Sports podcast. The first podcast Will and I have done without a guest in a while, so we really don't have to behave ourselves or write a rundown or do any planning.
Really talk about anything like football related.
Yeah, this episode is mostly about Will and I reconnecting. The last week and a half.
Friends.
We haven't talked, which is unusual. I've been out of communication with Will. Will has been suffering in the Sacramento heat, doing some I would recommend you follow Will's Instagram for his jackass stories. They might not be live anymore, but
There's probably going to be more ones.
I've been enjoying the, hi, I'm Will Keys, and this is Jackass. And this segment is called Kissing My Roommate.
Well, it takes two to tango, and I thank my roommate for creating a playground on which, I can improvise like that.
Isolation has really bred, just stellar creativity.
A lot of creativity. We were having a little back and forth last night about a new teen comedy that we were thinking of.
Yes.
Basically, imagine any kind of cliche teen comedy, maybe like She's All That. I got the idea from watching Tall Girl on Netflix, which is one of my favorite movies of the year. And, it's good, but I
haven't seen it. I don't even know what it is.
Well, check it out. It's about it's about a girl who's like 6 feet in high school, which is the worst thing you can be. Right. But I was wondering, this movie's great already, but it would be so much better if there were landmines randomly scattered throughout their high school campus. Just imagine the monkey wrench that would bring.
It's a classic idea, which you have aptly titled Landmine High.
Landmine High.
A coming-of-age story at a high school full of landmines.
And I'm trusting all the listeners here to respect our intellectual property.
Yeah, we came up with this first. If any sketch comedy YouTube channel just knocks us out of the park, we're suing. We're just going to sue.
Saturday Night Live has if I see Cecily Strong and Kyle Mooney blowing up on a high school campus a year from now, buddy, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah, and I used to work with Kyle Mooney and Beck Bennett, so I will dig up those emails and I will send them a direct threat if they steal this idea. They've already had so much more success than me. They don't need to rub it in my face by stealing my work,
No, they rode your coattails.
And that is how you name drop.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We have become we've gotten to a place where we can drop names.
Yeah.
How about here's a few of them. Brandon McManus.
Yep.
Jake Plummer.
Yep.
Dave Damashek.
Yep.
Adam Rain.
Yep.
Twice. So if you missed any of those, go check them out. Working
on getting Nick Wright. So today we are going to talk some football.
Is that right?
Yeah, he predicted 3-13 for the Broncos, which we did our becoming annual shredding of NFL sports commentator figure that we're going to try to turn into a friend.
Yeah. And if not a friend, then an enemy for life.
Yeah. There's no middle ground. We're either best friends or we are going to try to make ourselves feel better by taking you down. That is how the world works. Josh Rosen, some teams are calling about him. Dak Prescott turning down a shit ton of money, and there was a ton of player arrests. Some crazy shit happened with DeAndre Baker, Cody Latimer, Quentin Dunbar, Ed Oliver. And I read today Quentin Dunbar's DeAndre Baker's lawyer is threatening to sue Quentin Dunbar's lawyer, or because Dunbar said his lawyer said something that they made conflicting statements about. So my thought is that is making at least DeAndre Baker look more guilty. Baker looks more guilty. I think Dunbar's lawyers trying to separate Dunbar from the situation, and they actually have some ammunition to do that. Ooh,
sounds like a job for child lawyer MD.
Yes, our other sketch comedy hero, child lawyer MD. Really,
he's so bad because he's a child lawyer that he takes like petty criminal case, really just misdemeanors like jaywalking, littering, and he's so bad at their job that he gets them sentenced to death essentially.
Yeah, I wish so June and July really slow football months. But I keep going with football stuff because that's what my YouTube channel is on. I wish I could just take those 2 months off and we could shoot our sketches that we're, working on.
Yeah. If any of you out there are actors,
I've got the people to do it here in Denver. I've got the guys to shoot it. The D League, my friends, Chad Neat and Woody Roseland, both very good in production.
I mean, schools are shut down. We can basically get on any campus.
We can get into a campus easy for Landmine High. Hopefully they'll let us do practical live explosions too.
Yeah, no, this isn't CGI.
No, and if anything, explosions will kill more of the virus. So
that, from everything I know about it, it just can't survive a landmine, much like a human being.
No, I mean, some humans can. Just depends on their proximity to the landmine.
It depends on how tough you are, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. If you're weak, you won't make it.
You and I probably would survive.
Yeah.
Nick Wright, I don't think so. Not at this point.
Not unless he comes on the show.
Not until he responds to my vague Twitter threats.
Come on, Nick. Do the right thing here.
You know what sucks about that too is his prediction about the AFC West was the Chiefs 14-2, the Raiders 10-6, somehow as a wild card team, then the Chargers at 6-10, and the Broncos 3-13. But in the episode that Fox Sports put out, he just talks about the Chiefs, and they do general they're just all over the AFC West. And I really wanted him to talk about the Broncos so I could make the episode better and have some more fodder to work with. Is that the right way to use that word?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was good.
But then yesterday, the last 2 weeks, so all these player arrests have happened. And I swear to God, every time I upload the video, 10 minutes after, new news comes out about the arrests. I'm like, God damn it, I wish I had that in the video. And with the arrests and everything, I feel like that's a little more serious because you're talking about, guys basically having their worst day, and then you're making a bunch of jokes about the situation, and then maybe you find out a little bit more that you wish you had to factor into how you approach the episode. But with Nick Wright, after I uploaded the video later that day, I think it was the Fox Twitter account put out Nick Wright predicts every single game, all 256 games, each team's schedule. So on Twitter, there's a video of him going through the Broncos schedule that we didn't have to work with for our video. And I'm sure it would have given us at least 3 more really solid jokes to put in there. But maybe next week we can address that. My point being, it's fun to make fun of him for doing that, but the fact that Fox made him predict every team's schedule, that sucks.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's, what is that, 256 games?
I think that's what they said. Could you, going through every game and being win, loss, win, who gives it? You're just fucking that's 256 in the dark guesses.
I think at that point, game 79. By game 79, I'm just I don't fucking know. The Jaguars are beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do I know, what the health of the Chiefs are going to be in December of a season we don't even know is going to happen at this point?
We don't even really know who's going to start for the Patriots at quarterback.
No. It's weird because there's so much change that would be happening in this upcoming NFL season, and we can't even feel comfortable saying, yep, it's going to happen. It's going to start on time.
That's the other thing. I was really down about that, and now I'm starting to grow more optimistic by the day. I don't imagine we'll have fans there other than, I don't know. I think we could have like some symbolic fans, and not like the symbolic cardboard cutout fans that they have in the Korean baseball organization.
Like the sex dolls they have in
sex dolls, right? There could be sex dolls.
One of the stadiums was using sex dolls.
No, I know. Yeah, I saw that. It's a very horny Korean thing to do.
Yes.
I wouldn't put it past them.
I would go to the stadium just to steal a sex doll.
It feels like kind of a more like Japanese thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anime cutouts. I don't want to go there. But I think some people have tossed around like the idea of like having like, what would you call them? Like the essential work nurses, like people who've been working really hard throughout this, and then letting them into the stadium. I don't know, like what's a safe number of people to have. I don't know if it's, triple digits, quadruple, double.
It feels like you could space them out enough where you could probably do something like that.
Yeah. And I think we'll find a way to practice common sense. If you think you're going to go the whole season with no one testing positive, just is not going to happen.
No, there's definitely hurdles. John Oliver's last episode was about sports returning, and I'm a little disappointed they didn't, reach out to us to consult on that episode. Because that's our wheelhouse. Basically, we do a very similar show. Some say our show
is every week.
Yeah, we're almost every day. A lot of people say our show is like John Oliver, but for sports, but for more intellectual people. So
the thinking man's John Oliver.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're not just rim-shotting a bunch of dick jokes.
And we don't have the performance-enhancing British accent to make us sound smarter.
Yeah, that's very true.
So that's, it's just a cheat code, really.
Yeah, sometimes I go
speaking gibberish, but if you say it in John Oliver's accent, people will listen to what you have to say and think you're, oh, he's onto something.
Exactly. It's all about confidence.
When really he's just like he's reading the alphabet out of order.
That's very true.
That's our next podcast.
Alphabet out of order.
Yeah. Once we really run out of ideas, we do have our Zoom call with the
Patreons tonight.
That's looking forward to that. I don't know if this is going to come out before, but
this should go up before that.
Yeah, so if you're seeing that, there's still a chance to get in with the $5 page, and then
I'm curious to see how many people show up because hasn't been much response on the posts in Patreon. So I've blocked off
talk to like people for 30 minutes at a time.
That'll all be better for them.
Yeah. Hey, get in while the getting's good is what I say.
Exactly.
And I don't know how many people are just going to like show up and like show us their dick, like kind of like a chat roulette thing. How many people are really going to have a good conversation? How many people are just going to say, fuck you, Tom Brady, and get off?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be fun. It's definitely going to be an experiment because you don't know who's on the other side of that donation, really.
It could be a member of ISIS, for all we know. Could be.
It's just we find out my Patreon account has just become a recruiting ground for terrorist organizations.
That's the kind of global outreach we're shooting for.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be like the most horrifying. One of the most horrifying things to find out is like, my money's been funneling through my account, and people have just been chatting through that to extremists. That'd be a bizarre world.
I have to assume that's like what the bodybuilding forums are for.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and usually they're talking about everything but bodybuilding, but there's somehow like the most popular, forums on the internet. That's just my hunch, though.
I saw a video of what's Jon Gruden's son's name?
Deuce
Deuce Gruden doing some
Yeah.
push-ups, telling people to stay fit in quarantine, and he's going to be ready to train them once this shit's over.
Thank you, Deuce. Thank you for your service.
He's got such big muscles.
I have to that's got to be his real name, right?
Oh, I would imagine if Jon Gruden's your dad, yeah. Deuce seems like a.
Deuce is not a nickname.
Yeah, no.
Deuce is his real name, and his nickname is like Richard.
Yeah, exactly. Or you find out like Deuce is just short for Deucito.
Yeah, Richard Dick Deuce Gruden.
Richard Dick Deuce Gruden.
A little Dick Deuce.
Rich Dick.
Should we talk about Josh Rosen?
Chosen Rosen?
Chosen Rosen. Apparently the Dolphins are getting calls.
Yeah, who called the Dolphins, though? Did they reveal?
They usually don't reveal. It'd be nice to check, I suppose.
Usually the people who are just making up that it happened don't reveal which team's called.
Right. I mean, they didn't say they're calling for like a trade. It's possible they're calling just to like check in and see how he's doing.
Hey, is Josh healthy? Feeling good?
How's he, managing during the lockdown? How's Josh doing?
Right. Well, the Dolphins, they gave up a second rounder for Rosen, and now they have Fitzpatrick and Tua. So there's not a lot of need for Rosen. And I think Josh Rosen still remains like the biggest mystery in terms of can he actually play in the NFL. He's never really been given a shot, but he couldn't beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick. But that's like, look, Ryan Fitzpatrick's not an easy guy to beat out. Like
yeah. And I feel like the team played harder for Fitzpatrick once he got in there. If you watch Rosen's tape, when he did play in I don't know, he probably got 3 whole games. Maybe I'm a little off, but a lot of drops. That offensive line was truly abominable. Yeah. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's good at a few things. He's a good leader. He gets his teammates to play up to the competition, and he's good at kind of feeling out pressure for the most part. Rosen's he's not there yet, obviously. I think Rosen's got to have the pieces around him for him to work. But throw him in New England. What if Stidham's what if Stidham's terrible? It's possible. We saw Stidham for 5 minutes last year, and he threw a pick 6.
Yeah,
there's no guarantee he's good. He's even close to being a starter.
No, and he's not getting any work right now.
No, not like Tom Brady.
Brady already making sure Ryan Jensen knows how to stop his ass sweat from touching Tom's hands.
Weird weekend, or past week for Brady. He comes out with the TB12, basically his own TB12 brand vaccine.
Yeah, his immune boosting formula that doesn't even have fucking vitamin D in it, which is one of the key ingredients for your immune system. Not in his elixir to protect your immunity right now in these critical times.
Well, here's the thing. It's got the 2 vitamins that matter the most. Vitamin T and vitamin B, baby. Those are the only 2 vitamins you need.
Wonder on the periodic table, what is T? Is boron? Is that B?
B is boron. Yeah. T, it's been a while since it's been roughly 7 years since I've taken any kind of chemistry.
Let's see here. What do we got?
T, I think T is tuberculosis, maybe.
We got titanium is TI.
Titanium. Oh.
That's TI, like the rapper.
Right.
There's 2 TIs.
Right.
I don't see a T. Tom probably already trying to patent it for Tom.
Yeah, he's trademarked it.
Or maybe titanium is just T.
I think Darren Ravel's got a tweet ready to
to
announce that Tom Brady has trademarked an entire letter of the periodic table.
Yeah, it's just cool to see that Tom Brady, whose net worth combined with his wife is close to $500 million, is out there trying to make money on the pandemic.
Profiteering, some would call it.
Dude, so many people were shitting on his post about it. And somebody dug up like a reminder that he once promoted some sort of supplement that was supposed to protect against concussions. Which I'm sure
he also said, like, if you drink enough water, you won't get sunburned.
That's not true.
Yeah,
that is not at all true.
I can attest as a white man that water, while I'm sure it's good for you, it can't hurt. It does not prevent sunburns.
No, sunscreen helps there.
Sunscreen, even like a liberal amount of sunscreen doesn't even do it for me. It really just staying out of the sun altogether is the only. It's kind of like abstinence.
It's the only guaranteed way.
Just avoiding the sun completely is the only way I can guarantee I'm not getting sunburned.
Yeah. I do a little bit better in the sun once I get my base laid down,
Oh, you're Italian.
Yeah. See, my dad, like, doesn't wear sunscreen, and his excuse is because he's Italian. He doesn't have to worry about it. To his credit, he's in his 60s and never had skin cancer, so maybe he's right.
My dad grew up in the Colorado sun, and back in those days there was no such thing as like being indoors or air conditioning or those damn video games. So his parents would just send him out for like you leave the house like 8 a.m., come down when the street lights come out, and his skin is just permanently darkened,
right,
to the point where he looks Italian.
It's got that leathered
and I look like myself.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a Colorado thing. I think you guys are technically closer to the sun. While I'm at sea level, you guys are a mile closer to the sun.
Yeah, we're way closer. Way closer.
I have to imagine has some kind of effect.
Yeah, you can get burned faster.
Yes.
If you're up like at 9,000 feet in the summertime and it's hot and that sun's out, like you'll burn real fast.
You'll burn up good.
But you forget because it's like, maybe 78 degrees, but you still got that cool mountain breeze and you're outside like it's perfect. And you could be outside for like 2 hours and you come in and you're just toast. Fucking toast.
You never really know until you come inside and like lay down on a bed.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, Josh Rosen.
Outside of like New England though, I don't know where.
That's the problem for
where
him.
He's gonna go. Like, then that's the thing.
A backup job, obviously.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of teams don't even need backups.
Here's the thing, though, and I kind of got this from maybe it was Peter King I was listening to on NFL Network, but teams like the Cowboys spent a lot of money on Andy Dalton, not just because of the Dak thing, and that's something we can talk about after this.
That'll be a great segue.
Great segue. They spent that money on Andy Dalton because what if your quarterback is out for 2 weeks? He shows symptoms or tests positive or what have you. You might have to be without your quarterback arbitrarily for a couple of games at a time.
Right.
You just have to have another option, or else you're punting on the season for essentially a random occurrence, an act of God, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I'm trying to think. Who did Detroit brought in somebody to back up Stafford? Let me look. Lions depth chart.
It doesn't make me feel great about Jeff Driscoll, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't know why the Broncos. The Lions brought in Chase Daniel, and they have David Blau still, and he played like a couple good games. But then not so good once he had to keep starting. I was gonna say Rosen would maybe make sense there.
I think he makes sense as a backup in most places, really.
Yeah, I was just trying to find like an offense that would feel like a decent fit because like Stafford's not a mobile guy.
I would if I was Tennessee, maybe Tennessee's one of those teams calling because Mariota's gone, and I know Tannehill was great last year,
Right.
but track record
A lot of injuries.
health is not great.
Yeah,
Uh,
and their backup is Logan Woodside, and then also they brought in Cole
can't hit the wood
McDonald.
side of a barn. Oh, Cole McDonald.
Cole McDonald,
Yeah, it tastes terrible.
the Hawaiian guy.
Yeah, one of my last memories pre-pandemic was coming home like at 1 a.m. Forgetting that I ordered McDonald's and then waking up at 2 a.m. to Cole McDonald.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Still.
one of the worst things. Don't try those cold fries, buddy.
Still. Oh, there was a joke you kept using, and I was going to tell you, like, give me something else. It wasn't the Cole McDonald one. It was, I think Aaron Rodgers' Christmas present, sending back to his family.
Yeah.
I think there was like 3 scripts in a row where we talked about
so
him. The first one, it was good. The second one was like, yeah, we can do it again. And then I think it was like the third time, like, God damn it, Will.
I'm going to start talking
the Christmas. Was there like a news article about him rejecting his family's Christmas presents? Or is that just based on us knowing that he and his family don't get along?
No, that's a real thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, no, I didn't make that up. It's not a joke. No, it's a real thing that happened.
He returned. What happened? Explain it to me.
They sent him Christmas presents, and
his family
packaged them up, or maybe he just didn't open the package, and sent them back.
Wow.
That's how much he hates his family, and how much his family is like, please, Aaron, let's just get along.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. I don't think my brain could comprehend doing something that shitty to your own family.
No, it's like if I was the most successful person in my family, like I would be rubbing it in their faces while being with them. You know what I mean? Like I would want to be around them to like casually remind them, like, "Hey guys, I'm doing better than everybody else."
Although I think, it's reasonable if Jordan Rodgers is your brother and he's kind of a shitty quarterback for Vanderbilt and is bouncing around on NFL rosters for a year or two, and then goes to the Bachelorette. What is it, the Bachelor or the Bachelorette? Doesn't matter. Who cares? I think it's Aaron Rodgers would be right to bully him.
Yeah,
kind of a pretty boy. He's classically better looking, I guess, than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers more successful, I think, in the dating game. Just a cooler guy all around. Has an edge to him. Clearly a better football player. I think it'd be fair to just kind of bully him, to bully his younger brother. I know there's a third like Rodgers brother, kind of like there's a third Carr brother.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's always like a third brother that looks nothing like them, is like out of shape.
Yeah, there's like a fourth Jonas brother.
Yeah, yes. The bonus Jonas, as they call him.
What if Aaron Rodgers' growing feud with the Packers is just like the natural progression for him? Like he grew away from his real family. Now he's growing apart from his football family. Like maybe it's just inevitable. Like maybe that's why they drafted Jordan Love, because there's really no other option for him.
Yeah, and he even mentioned that. I don't remember who he was talking to, but he kind of just admitted that, it was awkward to get Jordan Love, that they drafted Jordan Love, and then they talked, and then, naturally it's going to be awkward, but I don't think he has any ill will against him.
No, he can't. Like he was in the same position. If anybody should understand it, it's him.
But if you're the Packers right now, knowing that like Rodgers is kind of just like waiting to be replaced, do you want to just like trade him now?
Maybe. Like
while his value is at its peak, the Jordan Love thing, like I know he's not ready, but like, and your team is set to compete, but everything we know about competing with a rookie quarterback on that contract is, conducive to success. And if that's the guy, like, maybe get him the reps. I don't.
Well, yeah, I think like in the 2020 season is probably maybe the best season in history to throw in a guy who just needs to learn. Like, I don't think anybody's going to be held too accountable if their team doesn't perform this year. It's a fucked up year. Expectations are at zero right now. So if we just have football, we're going to be happy. Like,
correct.
If team goes 2-14, you're just glad you got to watch some damn football. That said, it might be the hardest year to get the appropriate value for a guy of Aaron Rodgers' stature in a trade because everything's so weird.
Perhaps.
What do they call that? A catch-22?
Yes, catch-22.
Exactly why I don't understand Dak Prescott turning down $175 million contracts when I also saw articles yesterday about the NFL figuring out how to not pay its players if games don't happen. So,
yes.
What's more likely? Aaron Rodgers to be traded or Dak Prescott to sign a contract that's already higher than what he's worth?
I think this year?
Yeah,
Dak. I mean, he has leverage.
Yes,
just in that he's a good quarterback, but he lost leverage when the team signed Andy Dalton, and the way he's kind of like framed this. The Cowboys offered him 5 years, $175 million. I'm not going to do the math on that, but it sounds like a lot of money.
It's like $35 million a year, roughly.
Yeah, which is
more than anybody.
More than anybody. Yeah, it's like Rodgers, Wilson level. And I think Dak is a little bit underrated, and Cowboys quarterbacks are always held to just a ridiculous standard.
Yeah, no, I think Dak's a good quarterback.
He is. But at a certain point, you paid Amari Cooper, you paid Ezekiel Elliott. You could argue the Ezekiel Elliott thing is kind of, holding them back from just giving Dak the money and saying, fuck it. But at what point do you just kind of just cut your losses and go with Dalton? Like, Dak, like you said, he wants $45 million in the last year of his contract,
which is usually the year they want to do the least amount of guaranteed money, right?
Right. That's when they want to get out of it, and that's just like that's the only that's kind of like the only leverage that the team has at the end of a contract. In that, you sign these contracts, and like Dak's not the best quarterback. He's going to get the most money just because of the timing. Like Derek Carr got the most money in NFL history. Matt Stafford got the most money. Certainly not the best player, the best quarterback at the time. Maybe not even top 5 or 10. But it's about timing and it's about the market. But like the only saving grace for a team is that you sign them now and you're overpaying them. But by the end of the contract, you're underpaying them.
Right.
They're getting less than they're worth. And that's like how teams justify it, and that's how they make the cap work. But to backload a contract for a player 5 years from now, you just don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. He could get Alex Smith and never play football again. You just don't know.
There could be COVID-20
the NFL doesn't let you at
that point.
We could have exactly. 5 years from now, COVID-25 could wreak the havoc, and we haven't played football for 4 years, and the Cowboys still have to pay Dak Prescott $45 million. Like the federal government has to basically bail them out so they can pay Dak Prescott. That's what we're looking at.
The American economy finally collapsed once we bailed out Dak Prescott.
That was the last straw.
Yeah, I think that's like the other conundrum, if you will, is that if NFL happens this year without fans, there's a chance the league loses a fuck ton of money. They're talking about like $5 billion in revenue losses if they play without fans, which is going to affect the next year's salary cap because the salary cap's based on how much money the NFL made. So you can't justify paying Dak at the growth rate which quarterbacks have been paying if all of a sudden the salary cap drops by 30 or 40, 50 million for every team. Like, you simply can't afford that contract anymore. Like, I don't know. With NFL contracts, like, they're never really solid. There's wiggle room for like, everything is really workable when it gets down to it. So that's like when people really complain about player money. I'm just like, who gives a shit? They'll figure it out some way or another. They'll fix it later. Only teams that are really bad at managing money, like the Rams, seem to get themselves in really
Rams
shitty situations.
Can't even pay their debts in general.
Yeah, they just borrowed $500 million more for their fucking stadium they can't finish. So
they're like they did all of that just to put up 3 points in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, what a
I guess it would have been different if they won the game. I mean,
you go all in for a Super Bowl, but you got to win. You got to win that game.
At least put up 17 points.
Yeah, got to
get in the end zone once.
Got to.
I struggle to sympathize with the Dak Prescott types, and not to turn this into like a Tucker Carlson sports hour here, but like the guys that are complaining about, like, normal people are getting furloughed and have to work fewer hours and are just taking less money in general. And NFL players and baseball players to some extent are like, no, we got to get paid. I know we're playing like 60% fewer games or whatever it ends up being, and the league's making less money, but no, we need to make
the same.
$35 million a year as opposed to like 25.
Yeah, we need to make what we signed up for. It's like everybody's making adjustments. So
everybody has to sacrifice.
And the people who are making the biggest sacrifices we're making the least amount of money prior. So it's like
forgive me if I'm not going to shed any tears that the salary cap is going to, I guess it does suck. Like, if your rookie contract is expiring and you're in line for another contract and you thought this was going to be your big payday, and like, I do have sympathy for the guys that, relatively speaking, for the guys that are like living on 1-year deals and guys on the fringes of the roster. But to me, like, the Dak Prescott guys that are just like really, really milking it. Come on. Like,
I would just, if I were Dak, I would say, I'm just going to play this year on that franchise tag, and we will readdress the contract at the end of it. Because, like, I don't want to do a new deal right now with everything looming. Probably doesn't make sense for you guys to do a new deal. I'll play on the franchise tag, which is still going to pay me a shit ton of money, and we'll figure it out later. And maybe that's really what he's thinking, and things are getting distorted by the media trying to make it into something. But it's been going on long enough where it feels like there probably is just some hardball negotiating happening or whatever. But I would play on a franchise tag. Like, he's going to make a ton of money on that. Like, everybody complains about the franchise tag.
Kirk Cousins played on the franchise tag 2 years in a row, and he's like right out there with Jeff Bezos, I have to assume. And it got him the flexibility to get the fuck out of Washington.
Yeah, he got out of Washington. Then he signed the first fully guaranteed contract for a quarterback. But then he signed an extension that wasn't fully guaranteed after 2 years.
And that's all without winning a Monday Night Football game.
Exactly.
He's good, but
it's all with being like the 11th best quarterback.
You know what? He deserves that money for being a faithful husband and not cheating on his wife.
Exactly. We all do. I deserve that then. I'm very faithful.
That's how they should structure prenuptial agreements, is like roster bonuses.
Oh, every year of good faith?
Yeah, good faithfulness bonuses. Every year that you don't cheat on your spouse,
you get a stimulus check.
You get a stimulus check, and you get 10% of their net worth after you guys get divorced, if you do.
For avoiding external stimulus or extracurricular.
A different kind of stimulus.
Different kind of stimulus. We'll go with that.
You know what I'm saying?
You get the stimulus check. Just checking on your stimulus.
It sounds like a prostate check, but not quite. More pleasant.
Yes. Well, they can be pleasant. Good doctor knows what he's doing down there.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about this Rooney Rule thing?
Yeah, we can touch on that. It's pretty.
Leave.
I feel like we have a few more minutes left.
Yeah, I've been working on. Okay, so I just feel like I've been behind the last 2 weeks. Like shit keeps happening. I wanted to talk about the Rooney Rule thing before they voted on it. Then they voted to table it and talk about it later. So basically what the NFL is trying to do is adjust the Rooney Rule because after like a handful of minority coaches were fired, they weren't adequately replaced. However you want to look at it, the NFL doesn't think that it's being taken seriously enough, and that NFL teams have essentially just interviewed black head coaching candidates to basically fill that need and not taking it seriously enough. And they want to try and get more minority GMs, job opportunities. So their idea was to incentivize teams with a third-round draft pick, upping it by like 6 spots if you hired a black head coach. Well, minority, but it's black head coaches because there's not a lot of – there's mostly the NFL is white guys and black guys. And I think you're like Pacific Islander and Asian and Mexican is like 4% of the league. So it's really –
Dude, Italians count.
No, we're white. Italians would like to think of themselves as a special minority, but they're not.
Okay. Who's that? Brock Olivo? I want my draft picks for
hiring Brock Olivo.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like, and the more I read into this, they were like incentivizing more for GM hire. There was, if you kept a minority head coach for 3 years, you were going to maybe get more draft picks, assistant coaches. There was a lot of different things, and it caused like a big conversation about whether that was the right or wrong way to do it. And they ended up basically saying, well, we're going to keep talking about this until we maybe figure out a better way to do it. And I also saw Dominique Foxworth. He was opposed to the idea at first, but then he said once he saw what type of people were agreeing with him on Twitter, he changed his stance, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but
I get the motivation behind that.
Yeah.
I understand where he's coming from. I think this is a case of like good, their heart's in the right place.
Right.
But I can't think of a worse idea.
It just doesn't seem like it's hard because basically what the NFL is saying is like, we need more diversity, not just in the hires, but in the hiring process. And we don't trust you as individual organizations to do that seriously. And that's fucked up because you can't I don't know. I think because I was trying to work on a script about this, and anytime like race is an issue, I get scared to like say the wrong thing. But like my question is like, what percentage of minority candidates are trying to get those jobs? Like that's a stat we don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean like the one that gets brought up is Eric Bieniemy. on the Chiefs.
Right.
People are like, why doesn't he have a head coaching job?
Yeah. Eric Bieniemy also has like a weird history at CU, being there at a time when some pretty fucked up shit was happening. So
Vance Joseph too.
Vance Joseph as well. So it's like that doesn't get brought up too often.
No, it doesn't. Also, you could argue that having Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid makes it easy to be an offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I don't know. He might really be providing a lot of value to that offense, and I think he'll get a shot eventually. But how many we have? Anthony Lynn, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was like the original, like someone who benefited from the Rooney Rule, ironically with the Steelers.
The playing for the Rooneys.
Yeah. Like he was kind of like their like, okay, we need to fulfill this, and like, oh, we really like this guy. Nope, here's a Super Bowl in year 2.
Right.
That worked out. Yeah.
Ron Rivera getting rehired. I think there was 4 coaches. Flores. Tomlin. Because, Vance Joseph and Steve Wilkes, right?
Wilkes.
Both got fired the same year.
Marvin Lewis was fired, I think.
Marvin Lewis. Hugh Jackson. That was one point I was starting to get to with like Hugh Jackson being replaced by Freddie Kitchens. Their race had nothing to do with it. Really, the Browns just hired 2 shitty coaches back to back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because it was like a weird year where we had, and I'm not sure like the demographics of head coaches necessarily has to match the demographics of players. But Louis Riddick has talked about like fast tracking minority assistant coaches kind of into head coaching jobs or like higher roles, which I think is a better strategy than incentivizing their hire with a competitive advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know. It has to like be entirely representative of the like the base of NFL players. But I think they probably are underrepresented. But there was this weird exodus post 2018 that I think created a little bit of a panic and like this idea that we're going the other way, and a lot of it probably has to do with that. Like all of Sean McVay's friends got hired for head coaching jobs like the same year, and they happened to be white.
Well, I think that's an actual like issue. Not an issue, but it's like a factor they're not really thinking of in that. Okay, so coaching hires are usually based on coaching network relationships, right? So like my example was Gary Kubiak got fired because he would not hire – he would not – well, he left because he wouldn't fire his assistants. All those Eric Dennison, Brian, all his coaches. I forget all their names. But he brought all of those guys with him to Minnesota, right? They're all white guys. For whatever reason, that's just his coaching network. And it doesn't mean all of those guys are the most qualified for the positions he's filling. But they're the guys he's comfortable with, they're the guys he's been working with. And that's not like an atypical thing in the NFL. Like when a coach goes somewhere, he's got a crew of coaches with him, usually guys he wants to bring along. And until like those coaching networks become more diverse, and I don't know how you even make them more diverse. I think like that's a harder thing to figure out, but like, and that's with a lot of jobs like you get based on people, and it's figuring out how to get a more diverse environment of candidates, and that coaches can't just bring in their 10 guys they've already worked with to fill all of these positions, and that maybe each one of those positions needs to be a little more seriously evaluated by GMs or whoever you're going to put in charge of making those hires. Because I'm sure there's a ton of guys you can say are better than Eric Dennison to be coaching with, the Vikings or whoever the Brian Sirianni or the tight ends coach, like whatever. And I'm not saying like any of those guys are bad. It's just like an example I know about.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know what I was going to say after that, actually.
Well, I mean, like what I was going to say is, no, you're absolutely right. And I think the one thing that they're also talking about that is a great idea, and I don't think they've approved anything yet, but it's on the table, is that GMs or teams, I guess, can't block an assistant coach from
they passed that.
They passed it. Okay. Yeah. And that's good. They can't you can't block an assistant from interviewing or seeking like a higher position as a coach. Like if your quarterback's coach is, wants to become an offensive coordinator and they're interviewing with another team, you can't be like, no, you got to stay with us because your contract hasn't run up.
Right. And I mean, that would have gotten, if that rule were in place, that would have gotten Vance Joseph his head coaching job with the Broncos a year earlier.
Probably the best argument against it.
Yeah, I know. No shit. Because the Bengals denied the Broncos interview with him. So like teams can't do that anymore. And so that might be one of those things to organically help that situation I was just talking about, because you have
creates upward mobility.
It's like, okay, Kubiak brought in these 5 guys, but this assistant isn't working, or this coordinator isn't working. We got to fire him, and I'm gonna interview a whole new set of candidates, and hopefully you bring in a more diverse hire there because that's the best candidate for the position, and you fill it that way. I think the one thing Bomani Jones mentioned on that thing with Foxworth was like, it is a good point. He's like, nobody questions when a white guy who isn't qualified for the job gets hired. He's like, so I have no problem if a minority hire isn't as qualified as somebody else because, nobody's complaining.
I don't think that's true. I mean, like, I think people are very skeptical about Freddie Kitchens going from OC to head coach.
Well, I think, when a guy is like really shitty, the hire is going to get criticized.
I think people were skeptical before then.
No, I think you're right. That was a weird move for the Browns.
It was, and I think it's like a kind of a sign of warning. Just like, don't just pick like a guy who's got a good relationship with a quarterback to become your head coach. Because you go all in on that quarterback.
Especially a guy who doesn't
get a good head coach.
Doesn't seem that bright and doesn't seem like a good leader.
Hasn't has no experience with like game situations and calling timeouts and knowing when to go for it, calling like draw plays on 4th and 10. That's a big part of it too. And I think what coaches are getting better at too, and I know Sean McVay has done that, is like allowing assistant coaches to get experience at calling plays, kind of taking over responsibilities of being a head coach, like during preseason games, things like that. So they actually are prepared to, to take over. And like, even something like if you're an assistant coach and the market's not there for you in the NFL as a head coach yet, something like Bill O'Brien, and this is separating Bill O'Brien, the coach, from Bill O'Brien, the GM, but he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots and then took the job as head coach at Penn State. Obviously, this is like directly after Joe Paterno. Was successful there, made Christian Hackenberg look like a first-round pick, which is arguably the most impressive thing he's ever done.
Right.
And then goes to the Texans. By that time, like he understands the responsibilities of being a head coach as opposed to just like being this guy who knows how to call plays for an offense.
Yeah. No, and I think like as much as we've shit on Bill O'Brien, he's pretty good
successful
coach.
He's been the best coach in Texans history.
He's just he shouldn't have GM powers.
No.
And there's a perfect example of a place that could use a GM.
Yes.
That maybe could be filled by not a white guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But
go interview Louis Riddick.
Like,
I'm sure Bill O'Brien will conduct the interview. I think he does most things around that facility. I think
he's also the janitor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, cleaning up the fucking mess he created.
That's right.
Throwing up everywhere after that DeAndre Hopkins trade.
Just vomit all over Houston.
Clean up right in front of Deshaun Watson's locker. Sick.
I think the other person who made a good point was Anthony Lynn, because he wasn't a fan of the way the NFL wanted to implement it. And he was sort of talking about how the NFL in the hiring process needs to consider more than just coordinators to fill head coaching roles. He was like, a head coach has to be a good leader. And sometimes, good play callers aren't good leaders. And there are other members of the coaching staff that you identify as natural leaders, and that sort of broadening who is considered for head coaching positions could actually also help with that in a very sort of natural way. And I thought that was a good point.
I mean, like, one of the best coaches and one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL today, John Harbaugh, was a special teams coordinator.
Right.
Not like an offensive or defensive guy. I think he's like one of the only special teams coordinators to go straight to becoming a head coach.
Right. And like Dave Tobe, the Chiefs special teams coordinator, was considered for head coaching jobs for a couple of years, never got it. You know what I mean? And
surprised that's never happened, honestly.
So and that's probably a little bit biased based on what he coaches, which is special teams. Again, Brock Olivo, maybe he just needed to be head coach.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Those would make for some electric press conferences. But like, you think about like an offensive coordinator, it's X's and O's versus like special teams. You're taking a group of guys that like barely made the team. You're taking arguably like the worst players on the team and uniting them to do a very critical task, like kickoff coverage, punt coverage, stuff that like flips the field.
You're doing a lot of coaching up, basically. Yeah,
you're coaching players for sure. Like scheme's important, obviously, in special teams, but you're really, really taking on the job of coaching players as opposed to calling plays.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I think like trying to write a script about this Rooney Rule just reminds me of like how complex of a problem it is. It's like when somebody tries like to tell you how you can fix the economy or fix fucking coronavirus, and you're like, it is a problem that needs many things to happen to help correct it. And I feel like this is another one of those things where a lot of people want like a one-tiered solution when that's never going to be feasible. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of different things to consider. There's a lot of moving parts, things you can control, things you can't control. And it just made me like feel like I'm running in circles just trying to write a script about it and write jokes about it. You know what I mean?
Speaking of people, like organizations that could use like a minority hire, I think us, just to like have someone to like figure out these kind of episodes.
Right, exactly.
It's like, is this okay to say?
Is this cool? No,
nothing you said is okay.
Really, you need to change everything you're doing.
Yeah. So we'll be stepping on kind of to tie this whole thing together. It's like walking on landmines.
Ooh, like Landmine High.
Landmine High in theaters.
Way to circle back around.
28.
Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
How do you solve the NFL's diversity problem? Landmine High School.
Landmine High School, baby.
Thanks for listening.